Приветики, друзья, с вами Физкультурник, и я чувствую себя просто героем какого-то шоу по домам, потому что сегодня я отправляюсь в офис к австралийскому велосипедисту, ютуберу, подкастеру Джесси Койлу. Этот чувак вместе с Крисом Миллером делает подкаст NERO Show, который я слушаю просто в запой, жду их выпуски каждую неделю. И раз уж я оказался в Австралию, я воспользовался привилегией, написал ребятам и договорился об интервью. С Джесси мне интересно будет поговорить о нескольких вещах. Во-первых, как тренироваться нам, любителям, а ведь он в этом точно понимает, потому что он тренирует ребят уже больше 10 лет. Ну и вторая тема, которая волнует персонально меня очень сильно, а чего там по велосипедам? Какой идеальный сетап собрать? Если деньги не проблема, если все-таки хочется сэкономить. Ребята очень заморочены по аэро, они делают тесты в аэротрубе, они сами разбираются во всех аэроновинках, и точно Джесси знает, вот что из этого реально маркетинговый булшит, а что действительно то, что сделает вас быстрее на велосипеде. В общем, мне кажется, будет интересно. Интервью будет на английском языке, но я думаю, мы с вами справимся. Так ведь? Погнали. В общем, скоро мы увидимся, Джесси.
So the first question is, for example, if you just, amateur who want to be serious, but you have only 8, maybe 10 hours a week totally. I mean, gym, mobility, on a bike training, indoor, outdoor, no matter, right? So you just have 8, 10 hours a week. In your opinion, what it should looks like for the amateur? I mean, an average week.
Well, okay, so if you said 10 hours a week, so the things you mentioned, like mobility, I wouldn't count. That you can do that on the couch when you're watching TV at home at night. So I would only count training sessions. And so obviously you'd have on-bike work, and then you would consider strength training. Whether you should do strength training be the first thing, because that's going to affect how you structure the week. So if you it depends what the training background is. For some people, coming up to 8 to 10 hours a week is 50% more than they have been doing. So for that person, to include strength training would be fine, because as a general rule, you have one rest day a week. That takes, so you've got 6 training days. Then if you're doing 2 strength training sessions a week, that only leaves 4 days. And if you've already been training 8 to 10 hours a week, including strength training and dropping your ride days down to 4 days per week is not going to be enough stimulus. And so I'm like, on the strength training side of things, out of the people I coach, probably a third do strength training, 2/3 don't. Even though from a research perspective, the number of riders that would, in theory, benefit from it would be higher than a third. I wouldn't doubt that, but it becomes just a time thing. A lot of people don't have time to do double days, and that's why you got to break it down like that. So if you don't have time to train morning and evening, most people have one slot. You need to have a rest day. By the time you do 2 strength sessions, you're left at 4 days a week. And so a lot of the time, whether someone does strength training or not comes down to that. Like if you only can train 1 day a week and you're already quite well trained, you're already used to training 4 or 5 days a week, it's quite difficult to include strength training to any meaningful degree, because you'll end up doing it once a week and the benefits aren't going to be that strong there. So that's the strength training. It's very, I'm not very dogmatic on that. It's just look at your availability, look at your training background over the last 12 months. If you've already been doing 6 to 8 hours a week and you want to get significantly aerobically fit, fitter, including strength training on 8 to 10 hours a week is a very difficult squeeze. If you want to get those benefits, you have to look at doing the double days, so you can still keep your rest day in the week.
Sorry. So only one way to incorporate training if you want to have adaptations, right? To double it with the cycling, right?
What do you mean, sorry?
So if you want to start the strength training, So and you still want to, the good adaptations on a bike, you need to think about a double days. The ones.
I mean, unless you're a beginner and 4 rides per week is a sufficient amount of stimulus, is overloading from what you've previously been doing.
But I think right now we're talking, let's frame it, right? So right now we're trying to talk about the people who's already training 6, maybe 8 hours a day, but it's not structured, right?
Yeah.
It's a Zwift race, outdoor bunch race, coffee ride, maybe some amazing 8 hours weekend warrior kind of thing, right? But
then I'd be quite confident in saying that person stepping up to 8 to 10 hours of training time a week, while also keeping a rest day and not doing double days, right? It's going to be very difficult to them to get their aerobic wattage targets while also doing strength training, because then you're doing the same volume, because you've missed 1 or 2 what could have been ride days a week for strength training. So you're probably, in the scenario you're talking about, that person's probably still doing 6 to 8 hours of riding. But strength training is not inducing more aerobic stimulus. It's just it's an accessory that can benefit endurance power, but indirectly. So that's why we're kind of stuck on the strength training, but it's not just an automatic, let's fit strength training in. Generally, it's riders that have more time and can do double days. And also if you want to get, especially like, it depends on what time scale you're looking at. Like for most people, if someone's watching this video or they come to me for coaching, it's like, I want to put on 20 watts on my FTP for next season.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, don't do strength training. Yeah. Don't worry about it. You need huge overload in your aerobic strain.
Yeah.
So yes, long term it would be good to, and then literally what you say, don't worry about strength training. We need to have this conversation in 8 to 12 months time. Once you've gotten through this huge block and you've gotten the gains you've gotten, you're happy with, okay, then we look at, well, how can we come to more balance and include it? But that's something that's like, let's get you happy with where your fitness is at from what you like envisioning you are as a rider, and you don't need strength training to do that. And then I would put more pressure on them as the years go by. You're working with someone's been training for a year, 2 years, then it's like, okay, we really need to try and figure out how to fit this in, because you don't want to go, people end up, because you're on this hamster wheel of, you do your season, you go, oh, well, it's only like 3 months and the weather's going to be good again, so you don't do strength training. Suddenly then it's been 5 years and you haven't done any resistance work, and that's not healthy. Yeah. So that's sort of where it ends.
So I'm asking because a lot of people's watching GCN content or, the whatever, like influencers kind of content stuff. And everybody's saying, oh, the strength training is the must for a cyclist. And they already have unstructured work. They're trying to incorporate 3, maybe even 4 times because they want to gains, right? So everybody want to ride faster. I don't try to straight train, but you're right.
I mean, I don't know where that advice comes from. Have you ever worked with somebody? They will get their best possible watts per kilo wattage targets by just doing 8 months without strength training and just recovering well and overloading the aerobic strain.
Yeah.
You can't, I've never really seen it go the other way, except for some niche cases where if some people have, like, you have to screen them for it, but there are some people who have no strength training background, no team sport background. Like some people were just like, when they were kids or teenagers, they just were gaming, sitting down, totally sedentary. They have like a complete lack of muscle mass. And the problem for them is they will plateau really early, even if you overload aerobically. So there are cases like that where it's different, but yeah, generally it's like, if you just want to get fit, you can put the strength training off. I don't believe you need it. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe the second part of the spectrum is like a pro riders who had really problems with the bone density for them because of massive, 30 hours weeks, right? So, and for them, strength training is just, the part of longevity, maybe. And that's why everybody's talking about. So my question is, everybody's talking.
Well, they also have unlimited time. They could do double days every day. They got nothing else to do.
Yeah. And maybe train 3 or even 4 times a day, right? So the kind of.
Oh, sorry. And just in the pro example, they're already training completely filling their aerobic strain bucket. They're probably already doing 28 hours a week. They can't just go and do 35. It doesn't work. So they need to look for all those accessory ways to indirectly improve endurance performance. Whereas for the 8 to 10 hour a week amateur, it's like you're only like quarter filled your bucket.
Yeah. Exactly. So because right now we know a lot about the pro trainings, heat training, altitude adaptations, stretch training. There are a lot of crazy workouts like Quinn Stevens or Jonas Abrahamsson is making 10 by 20, 10 trays of the trainers, 8 hours. This crazy kind of stuff. But and when the amateurs is looking at it, so they say, okay, I need heat training, I need altitude cap, I need all the kind of stuff, But you're saying, and I'm totally agree with this. So you need to keep it simple, right? So
the only out of those things you listed, the only one that I think even an amateur could really benefit from is heat training. Especially if you're going to some kind of ride where it's going to be hot. Everyone benefits from heat training. It's just inarguable. If you have to perform, it's some kind of ride or event in the heat. That's the one where everyone from 120 watt FTP to 400 watt FTP could benefit from heat training at the right time.
Okay, let's come back to the heat training a bit later. So, okay, so we have 8-10 hours a week. So what should be, your training schedule looks like key sessions, or all the key sessions are the key sessions. How many intervals, long rides do you need or not?
Mm-hmm. I'd say before you start looking at what the training intensity distribution should be or what the session distribution should be, I'd just say have a plan for what time scale you're looking at. I think most people kind of just start, I want to get fitter, I'm just starting this, but there's no goalposts. So it's set a time. It can't be 6 weeks, is a bit too short, but it doesn't need to be, I just want to get really fit and let's see where I get in 8 months. It's too long. So I'd say if you set it and just said anywhere from 8 weeks at a minimum up to about 16 weeks would be like the goalpost where you actually measure yourself and sit down and look at how you progress, and then also assess yourself along the way. It doesn't even need to be max efforts. I mean, it can be if you're really motivated. You can do a 10-minute power test every 5 weeks if you want. Do it in 5. At 0, you do it at 0 weeks. You probably skip it earlier in the phase and then do it at week 10 and 15, and that gets you close to 16 weeks. Or it could just be, for some riders that I don't want to do max effort testing because it's quite mentally challenging, you just do a sub-max assessment. Just do 20 minutes at 80% of FTP, 20 minutes at 90% of FTP, and then you can just do 15 minutes at 100% of FTP. Look at just take your heart rate reading, take an RPE, effort level score out of 20 reading. You can do that every 4 weeks. Just because I know there's a lot of, I bump into riders and I get in contact with riders, and they would have gone the last 12 months and some of them don't really know if they've improved. And I'm like, oh, so you were training with the intention of improving, and you're either not sure if you improved or you didn't improve, but you just kept going. To me, that's strange. Like if your training intention is to improve and you've gone 6 weeks and you're not sure if you've improved, that's,
And they call my for a second, that's right? For me personally as well, so you're right.
You firstly need to know if you have improved or not, and if you haven't, it's important to know because you need to go and make a change. Mm-hmm. Because we're talking about, I've got an event in 14 weeks. So if you're talking about a 6-week scale, you should have improved. So that would be the first thing. Before you even look at what the sessions are, have a time commitment of when the goalpost is, and have a plan for how you're going to check in on yourself. Even if it's nothing structured, even if it's maybe, because if a lot of the training I schedule, I repeat a session. I'll give a rider, say, maybe it's a sweet spot session. They do the exact same session 5 weeks in a row. Well, there should be a sign of improvement in that. So it could even just be in the training. That's very important. A lot of people are focused on what the training is, and then they're going week and week and week, and you're not even sure if it's working or not. Okay, structure. There are so many different ways to structure a week, but there are certain boxes that need to be ticked. You need a certain amount of, this is basic. You do sports science degree at university before you've even picked a sport, or before you've even picked a domain. It could be endurance or strength. You go, what are the training principles? It's progressive overload.
Yeah, he's up there. Every sport, right?
Variety is one of them. Doesn't really necessarily apply to cycling, but it does. You got to do a different variety of sessions. So there needs to be. If you've got 8 to 10 hours a week, obviously there's so many base life days. Because even if you say 8 to 10 hours a week, you did set up that the person is already doing maybe 6 to 8 and they're looking to step it up. So that's good. It's a program of overload. There's sometimes people if someone's got really motivated to doing an event, they actually schedule their training based on their availability, not on what's an appropriate amount of overload. So that's something to think about. It's okay, if I do 2 hours a day midweek and I've got 3 hours each weekend day, cool. What's that? 10, that's 16 hours a week. And they go and just do 14 to 16 hours a week. It's no. So have a look at what you have been doing. So it's really hard to just say, do 2 3x10s at work. It's just, I'd be just making it up. So I'm trying to go more kind of principle.
That's nice because everybody's looking for a silver book.
Yeah, well, just, go...
Don't just say all this, secret and all that.
Yeah. If you really just want a silver bullet, just go and get a coach or just sign up for Trainer Road if you just want to follow something, right? But I'm trying to talk, if you're just trying to actually think about your own training, have a look back at what you did. So I'm just trying to think of things that I see that are room for improvement in someone that's probably doing 6 to 8 hours a week is not frequent enough. Frequency is one of those first training principles you learn. A lot of people's training I go into and it'll be ride Monday, ride Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it will just be a random scattering. It will be, this week was 3 days a week, the next week was 2, then it was 7 days a week. And I'm just like, okay, we need to try and get in a routine. Let's stick 2 rest days a week. Let's do 6 hours on the weekend. And then if you want to get to 10, then maybe you do like 3 1.5 hour days. That's roughly 10 hours a week. And try and stick with that for 8 weeks in a row. So frequency is really important.
And consistency in timing, right?
Yes.
So I mean, every single week should be, the same, same amount each, maybe some progress forward in timing, but, not like crazy thing like 3 hours, then 16 hours. So.
Yeah. Like, so you'd have the consistency of the frequency of the rides across the week. So you might go, okay, I want to ride 5 days a week and have 2 rest days. Even if it's an overload week or one of these like recovery weeks, you might still try and stick close to that. So your overload week might be 6 rides a week, and then your recovery week might be, it'll be lower intensity, lower volume, but it might be, you still try and do 4 rides a week and try and keep riding on the same days because you're just trying to get in that routine really builds the habit. So that would be the first thing, is training more frequently. A lot of the time as well, for the person we're talking about, that probably means trying to take some load off the weekend. If you're doing a really well-planned 10 hours a week with frequent sessions, it's very hard to do 4.5 hours at 300 TSS on a Sunday. That doesn't work. It doesn't leave any room for the sessions midweek. And also that's inducing just a huge amount of strain that your body can't recover from as well. It's just, there's just compensation. It doesn't, the stimulus from one 300 TSS ride, not the stimulus, the adaptation from one 3-hour TSS ride is way worse than 3 100 TSS rides.
Oh, really?
As a general theory. So I'm saying, like, if you're trying to be more frequent throughout the week, oftentimes I have to tell people, like, that 4.5 hour group ride, you're going to have to make that 3 and spread that more evenly midweek. And that will straight away pick up. Oh, you can do that for 6 weeks, someone will get fitter because your body has that. It's just little micro chunks. If you're doing, to put it in a different context, put it in 2. If you're doing strength training, you do 3 strength sessions a week. You don't just go in twice a week and do 6 sets of squats, 6 sets of leg press, 6 sets of leg extension, 6 sets of Romanian deadlifts. And that no one would. It's just like you just absolutely trash yourself, and your body can't recover from that. It's too much.
Yes.
What do? You go 3 days a week. So because it's like a fun group ride, people don't really realize
that sometimes amateurs is losing fitness during the racing season because they're racing hard. Some 300, 400 CSS every week, or maybe week after the week, right?
Yeah.
And no stimulus during the week. So that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
I saw it on myself.
Yeah.
I'm losing fitness during the race season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I saw, because I thought, wow, it's a huge stimulus, right? I'm getting 400 TSS from gravel, my gravel racing. That's great, right? So 90 minutes on a trash call, right? But I'm losing fitness.
Yes, yeah, it can be a good durability stimulus. So as a race specificity can be good, but you could absolutely see an FTP drop
exactly
as you get into like 3 months of racing with those huge rides. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, so that's a harder thing to do, is like season management. If you're someone with a really busy racing schedule, that can happen. And same with, like, for example, with heat. A lot of people have tried heat work before. If you're trying to do a heat acclimation block, you don't go out and put your paint suit on and get on the trainer and just do 6 hours of, you do an hour and 20 minute heat exposure, and you do it 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with just general aerobic training stimulus.
So your training schedules should evenly split through the whole week, right?
Yes, fairly evenly. Yeah, your weekend, as I said, your weekend might be 2 3-hour rides, and then that leaves 4 hours. Yeah, and then 2 rest days, Monday and Friday off, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is 1.5 hours. If you got 10 hours a week, that would change if you're doing, like, for a gravel race, for example. About 6 weeks out, you would change that, so you would shift more load to the weekend so you could get those durability stimuluses, and then the midweek would be lighter, especially the first half of the week, to recover. But from 6 weeks out and earlier in the build, like in a build phase or in a general endurance prep, it's more even across. It needs to be more even across the week.
Okay. Now let's talk about what kind of fries it should be. So because the main issue, and I'm still myself and other people who's around me, who's amateur cyclists, is no pain, no gain, bro.
Yeah.
Every single session should be hard as hell, right? So if you're not doing, the crazy intervals, you are not, progressive at all. So what it should look like, how many intakes, what kind of should be?
For this scenario, usually 2 intense sessions a week is going to be enough stimulus. Again, a lot of this is guess. So if you're coaching someone, you make an educated guess based on research, and then you monitor, you see how they're progressing. Then if you're doing it yourself, you do the same. Stick with 2.
Okay.
That's a good, so you'd have 1 on the weekend. Usually that's going to be, let's say that's a Saturday, coming off the rest day, so you're nice and fresh. And that could, let's say you're trying to build your FTP. I would do like a longer sustained aerobic session on a Saturday. You might go out and do 2.5 hours with 2x30 at 90% of FTP. Or maybe even higher if your FTP set correctly. If your FTP set correctly, 2x30, it's sort of 90 to 95% of FTP. 95% is like getting close to threshold. So more 90% is your classic sweet spot. They're basically lower. I should just say lowers sub FTP.
Okay.
Where exactly that sits depends on how accurately you've set your FTP. If you've got your FTP from a ramp test or something and you try and go out at 95%, you'll probably blow up. Yeah. But that's because your FTP is damned incorrectly. And obviously, it depends on your own physiology. But let's say 90 to 94%.
No, let's say in RP, for example. So
yeah.
How hard it should
so your Saturday, you could go 2.5 hours, 2x30. The first one you're ended at sort of a 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
I wouldn't go above an 8.5. Yeah, 8 out of 10 and 8.5.
Okay. So it's hard session.
Yeah.
It's not brutal.
If it was at 2x30 at FTP, you'd touching numbers.
Yeah.
But you're just going slightly below. But
okay.
So that would be your long. That would be your Saturday, and then Sunday could just be 3 hours in endurance.
Okay.
Or if you do a group ride, the group ride could be this. You could just don't worry about the session. Just do the group ride as the intensity stimulus on the Saturday. You can just see it's an intensity stimulus. Whether it's a group ride or a structured session, you will probably progress, at least initially, regardless of what the intensity is.
Mm-hmm.
As you start to plateau and you start to get fitter, you may need to be more specific with it and analyze it a bit more. But let's just say Saturday is 2.5 hours with intensity. It could be a group ride.
Okay, nice.
And then just endurance Sunday for 3 hours.
So it's 5.5 total. Okay.
Yeah.
So and they have still 5 or 4 days left, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not 5 a bit.
And as I said, for a lot of people, that means Saturday you do the group ride and just go straight home. Usually you do an extra loop and go to the cafe, but it's like, no, let's just get home and recover. You'd usually have, let's say you have Monday and Friday off. So you've only got to do one more intense session. And I would do, again, you will probably progress no matter what it is. I would generally choose something more intense. This would be for a build phase, right?
Yeah.
3x10, slightly above FTP.
95.
Sorry. You could do 3 10s at, it would be at
105, I mean.
Usually I'd set the band at 102 to 105.
Or it's just slightly above.
You're slightly above, yeah, slightly above. At RPE in that one is where you should be touching a 9.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, so 2 key sessions.
Yeah.
One, it's 2x30.
Yeah.
With the short rest. Yeah. Between 5.
The rest doesn't, for that session, this doesn't matter. You could do 20 minutes of it.
So it's all about the volume, right?
Yeah.
So you should get at least, 1 hour of below FTP volume, right?
Yeah, usually.
But little FTP. It's from metabolic point of view, it should be the FTP effort.
On the Saturday.
What is Saturday? Yeah.
No, under. Yeah, lower. So lower is important. So under 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Under 98%. Yeah, for that session.
So it's what?
It's just lower zone 4. It's just accumulation. Moderate. It's technically moderate aerobic.
Okay.
Not high end. Yeah.
Okay. And the second session is 3x10. slightly above FTP, so it's about 30 minutes of FTP.
Yeah, you asked at the rest periods.
Yeah.
Again, that's like in the weeds because there's so many things. You got like, do I need short rest periods? Do I need power variance within the effort? Do I need, and you could do hard starts, like 2 minutes hard, 8 minutes hold. There's like, do I do cadence manipulation? None of that really matters. Like for someone who's just going 8 to 10 and the volume is an increase and the if you've gone from if you're a 6 to 8 sort of fluffing around and you're going 8 to 10 structured, more frequent, that's the overload.
Yeah.
So I would say just keep it simple and just do 3x10 sustained, and the rest period doesn't need to be particularly short. If you want more overload, like if you want to be more stimulating, you could shorten the rest period, but I wouldn't. That's more difficult than like an amateur just stepping up need. So I just do 3x10 with 8 minutes recovery.
Okay.
But the thing is, repeat it.
Yeah.
Do the exact same session 7 weeks in a row.
7 weeks in a row.
8 weeks in a row.
Not 3.
No. Or you do 3 and if you change the session and you're like, then you're like, well, I did this 3 weeks in a row and it got better and then I changed the session and now I'm not really sure if... Yeah. So it's kind of boring, but if you repeat it, it makes it really clear. So yeah, 3x10 with 8 minutes rest in an hour and a half ride. Oh, the other thing I would probably do on the Saturday is do like an hour of endurance first, then do the efforts so that your cool downs, you only got like a 15-minute cool down or ride home and you're done. So to get the endurance part of that ride done first, you don't want to be adding on like, I've got to do another hour and a half after I've just done 230s, lower zone 4. It's better to do it earlier.
So about the endurance. So the different, systems is talking about, zone 2 rides differently. So for someone is telling, so zone 1, zone 2, something, just, the talking test, if you can talk frequently, like we right now taking right now. So it's zone 2. More Norwegian, Scandinavian like model is talking about. So zone 2 is upper zone 2. It's like you almost, the just crossing 2 millimoles, with all this lactate, the first lactate threshold line. Mm-hmm. On your opinion, what should the zone 2 or endurance ride should looks like? It's more like zone 1, 2 easy ride, or it's
again from some of an amateur.
Yeah,
the physiological basis for what you're classifying zone 2 is irrelevant. So I'd say it should be. It's conversational pace, but it's still focused. You can't just drift off with the fairies, and you won't hold it. I would just keep it pretty simple. Set your FTP accurately, and then your zone 2 is anywhere from like 58 to 70% of FTP, maybe slightly above.
Okay.
So I think and don't worry, like just run with that. Now, this is where it's like, if you're doing a 4-hour endurance ride, it's generally not a good idea to do that, which is technically at 70% of FTP or 71%, which is technically in zone 2. Like that's extreme. That's very difficult. Based on if you're taking lactate or if you're measuring VO2, that would be probably not within the zone 2 marine classic, like how other people measure it. But that's not really the point. The point would be, if you're doing like 4 hours, you'd go to the lower end, just do it at like 62% of FTP, and then you can operate within the range. That's the other thing. If you're unlimited time and you're doing an hour, I'll often set just an hour zone 2, hour and a half zone 2. It's fine. Do it at 70%. It's slightly more training impulse, slightly more training stimulus. It's still zone 2. Your lactate's going to probably be slightly different.
Yeah.
You'll be working slightly harder. Your heart rate will be slightly higher. But it's just, if you're on limited time, there's no need to be like, I need to do this at like, below this lactate number that I've got. It's just unnecessarily a degree of deep.
That's not a thing. So it's a spectrum from, I say, 58 up to 70, right? If you're doing, the 5 hours ride, you can be on a lower side of the spectrum. Yeah. And if it's just on a 1 hour, maybe 90 minutes ride, you can drift up to the higher.
Yeah.
But not crossing the line. I mean, so still not crossing the line because the fatigue is accumulated.
But you can. That's the other thing as well. You can cross the line. Like if you're starting to plateau.
Yeah.
And you've been doing your 8 to 10 hours a week, and it's you've done 4 months of it. And you've got good gains. You have a break. You're resetting. You want to get to the next step, but you don't have any more time. Well, you might just you might do hour and a half endurance. Like let's say sub 75% of FTP. You might do your 10 session. Then the third day in a row, which would be the Thursday.
Yeah.
For that person who's just stepped up, you should keep that at zone 2. The volume, the frequency, that's all providing the overload. But if you're starting to plateau, make that a tempo ride. There's nothing, it's at a like first principles level, it's more aerobic strain.
Yeah.
So you might strategically not do an endurance ride and do a tempo ride instead. Knock that one out at 75 to 80% of FTP for an hour and a half. And maybe you don't do that every week. Maybe you do that in like a 3-week building, 1 week lighter. You do that week 2 and 3 as a form of overload. Mm-hmm. And again, like that's, your lactate's not going to be, you're going to be above LT1. Doesn't matter. The first principles are most important. And if you need more intensity to hit an overload, you might swap that endurance ride for a tempo week. I do that all the time. Sometimes you need that. So I don't know. It's like, I wouldn't, for this amateur sort of person, don't worry what, go within the zone 2 range. If it's shorter, you can go slightly to the top end. If it's a longer one, go slightly lower. Don't just chase the power target for the sake of it. And if you need to, swap your endurance ride for a tempo ride to hit the progressive overload. That's more important than like just hitting some arbitrary lactate number because some guy on a podcast said you'll overtrain if you go above zone 2. It's like, not.
It's not.
No. But obviously, don't go out and swap. If that's the other problem as well. It's like, if you're at the point where you've done this like 8 to 10 hours a week for so long, and every ride, I don't know this, like you're having to overload every ride to get more stimulus because that's where it becomes like you need more hours. That's because volume is always first. That's where it's like you might want to start to look at, well, how can I get more training time in the week so I can go up and do 13 to 14 hours a week and do more lower intensity volume, because that is a more optimal way to train long term. Yeah.
Okay. From your point of view, what is the best way to measure your stretch called? FTP test? What kind of maybe a lactate testing? Maybe, this critical power testing on, from your side?
The best way for an amateur would be the easiest way.
And I agree.
I would, and
it's really hard to measure lactate on every single loop on off.
Let's say I coach rides. You get a lactate meter, and half the readings are garbage. You get it's contaminated. Your lactate didn't go to 6 millimole at 200 watts. It's contaminated. So it depends what are you testing for? So are you doing the testing to see improvement? It's improvement, right?
Yeah. And to set your,
it's kind of different things, because if it's just to set zones,
just to set zones,
you can just estimate it. Like that session I talked about, 2x30.
Yeah,
I can guess someone's FTP plus or minus 4 watts just looking at the session, getting their RPE, looking at the heart rate.
Yeah,
just do it. You don't even need to test it. You just look at a training session. So I would just do it like that. That's the easiest way. Don't even test, especially because testing has other purposes. Like if you're trying to measure how your maximal performance has improved, you would test. And you could do it, 20-minute max effort. We could do a 60-minute, I do sometimes 60-hour effort. You just do hour of power, that's a good way. It's not a particularly good way to measure FTP though, because it depends on, you have to really, depends on what the conditions are. You actually have to really like taper for that. And actually what can happen is as well, and this is where, let's take the I want to do a max effort out of it. If you're just doing it to set zones, here's the other problem. It happened to me the other week. I did an hour of power as a training session, and I used it to set FTP. No, I didn't use it to set FTP. I did an hour. I wanted to just see what could I do for an hour. But it was a miracle day. It was like perfect conditions. I had like a really good run in the 3 days before. I felt like it was one of the best days I've had on the bike in the last year. I think I did like 385 for an hour. If I set my FTP...
385, man, I'm jealous. That's crazy.
If I set my FTP at 385...
Really strong.
98% of the other days I go to train, my FTP isn't 385. And so when I set my FTP on Training Peaks, I put it lower. I think I put it like 378, because you're trying to set an FTP which captures more of the day so that your targets are more accurate. Not like this miracle day.
That's part.
And that's why, so if I'm actually where did I get the actual FTP I set from? Well, from my training, because I know all the other sessions I've done, what power for 20 minutes feels like a 9 out of 10, and doing that kind of process. So the problem is you do need experience to do that. Someone that hasn't really looked at their own training before, they'll probably get it wrong. But if you go out and, as I said, do the 3x10, repeat that, do the 2x30, repeat that, surely you can get pretty close to your FTP. And if you want to do a max effort test, just do a 20-minute test or 60-minute test. And just, if you do 20-minute, I don't take 95%, especially if you don't do that. You're supposed to do like a 5-minute blowout effort.
Yeah.
To start and then do 20-minute. No one does. Who wants to do that? You always do a 20-minute test when you've just done a
No, your first got fuck up. No, it's 5 minutes. I can handle it. So 20 minutes, so 1 hour. Come on, bro.
So just do a 20-minute max. I use, for most people, just take 93%.
93.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's lower.
And it's like, but I have a larger anaerobic capacity, so that's not accurate for me. Yeah, but like your FTP is not accurate half the time anyway because you're tired.
Exactly.
So the FTP is just get it close so the zones are correct, so your TSS correct. And so when you're looking at your intensity factor and stuff, it's correct.
So it's like a triangle, right? So the heart rate, RP, and your FTP, the estimated FTP. So it's like you should be somewhere in there. For example, I'm making 3x10. Yeah. And right now it's not a perfect day. If it's perfect day, fine. 320 all day, all day, I'm fine. So right now it's not perfect day. For example, yesterday was not the perfect day. I've tried to do my 3x10 work, and it was suffering for me personally. So I should be somewhere in the middle, right, of your estimated FTP or target, the wattages, RP, and the heart rate, somewhere in the middle. So for example, if I'm doing 3x10 and I'm feeling awful, but my FTP numbers, wattage numbers, it's in range. Mm-hmm. My heart rate numbers still in the range, but my legs feel awful and I feel awful. Should I lower it down a bit? The same question about if everything else is good but heart rate is higher or, the wattage is lower, Do you
mean lower it down like when you're actually doing the session?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I'm doing the session, for example, my heart rate is in zone, is in target zone. My wattage is in target zone. But my RP is like 10 out of 10. Like I'm making suffering.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I'm suffering.
Yeah, I don't like using heart rate for that purpose.
Yeah.
People might find that confusing. And when I start working with people, I generally tell them, just take heart rate off your screens. Oh, look at heart rate. Now, they need to record heart rate because you need heart rate for analysis. That shows what's going on under the hood. Yeah, always record heart rate. I don't like heart rate in the within session decision-making process. I like power and RPE. What's the combination of those two? Usually that's a clearer way to track that. Again, heart rate, because the problem is heart rate can just start doing strange things and you're going, my heart rate's higher today. Should I keep going? Should I lower the power target to keep my heart rate? It's just...
If it's too windy... Yeah, my experience, is it too windy, my heart rate is going up. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It's all like, yeah, you're right.
So I just power and I'm usually just guided by effort level with those two. And then, so if you're hitting the power, but the effort level's more higher, then you just drop the power slightly, bring the RPE into what it should be for that, whatever the effort is, and go with that. And the reverse, I'd actually say if you're doing a session, not like a tempo session or something, but let's say you're doing that 2x30 sweet spot session, right? And you're in week 4 and you do the first one at 95% of FTP, which should be really hard. Be like, actually, my RP was only like 7. Like I'm on one of these really good days.
For example,
increase the power.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah. That's one of the other things as well with your training. Like, capitalize on the good days. Just as you would on a bad day, you would drop the power down because your body's not responding. You would drop the power down and just get it done, or if it's like a disaster day, you would just do a lower intensity ride and move it to another day, right? So you would do that if the RPE was way too high. You should do the opposite if it's an intense session.
Okay, nice.
So if you're feeling really good and your body's come ready to perform and it happens to be one of these really good days where you can do a power you haven't done before or have one of these like what you would call a breakthrough session. I think I stole that term from I think Zerpt, an online training platform. They have like this breakthrough They call things breakthrough days. It's quite a good.
Trainers have the same. They had the breakthrough train.
I thought it's quite a good term. You have these like breakthrough sessions. I'm like, well, if you come in on one of these days where you're doing the same power you did the last week and it feels way easier, bump the power up. Like, use that time for, and that's more training stimulus because you've done 2x30 at a power you haven't done previously.
Nice.
Or recently. And yeah, push the effort level, get the effort level up to where it is, or maybe even slightly higher because you're feeling so good. That's a really good training stimulus.
Nice. And if you feel, awful, for example, and your RP is too high, you're trying to lower the wattage.
Yeah.
But where is the breaking point? When should I just drop the intensity and say, okay.
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one.
It's so big, especially at the coach.
And if you've got, so that's where it's like, if you're in a world tour team, you would message your coach. So those coaches only work with like, one coach might have like 5 riders.
Yeah.
And so they're like before every session you call and my left knee has got like, and they'll tell you, you're just calling him for everything. So that's probably the ideal thing would be you ask someone that can tell you. That's not realistic for basically anyone other than a world tour rider, just to have that like coach on speed dial. So you kind of have to make the choice yourself. You need to look at where you are in the training cycle. So if you're following like a 3-week progression and then the 4th week's lighter, if this is in week 3 and it's towards the end of it, and you're not totally cactus, like you can probably still do the effort, but power's a bit lower and the RP is really quite high, you would be more inclined to push through and just get it done, even if the power's lower, because you're trying to really overload and induce that stimulus. Mm-hmm. And you know that I just got to get through, but I just got to do this session. Tomorrow I just got 3 hours endurance, and then I've got Monday, Tuesday next week off, and the Wednesday is like an hour endurance, right? Like you're going into that deload. So you would push through. If this is early in week 2 of a cycle, you'd be more conservative with it and move it. I can't really give a percent. Like obviously there's normal fluctuation. Let's say, let me just try, like if you usually do your effort if your sweet spot efforts are usually 300 watts and you're sort of doing them at
250.
Even in a controlled like training environment, like you're really training for something. Yeah. It should be like something's gone disastrous if you're like 50 watts off at that.
Yeah.
Well, so I'd say like 20 watts. If even that, if you're 15 watts off, this is the other thing. Assume it's not super hot. So if it's really hot, that would be explainable. But let's see if you just cooked because you're tired. Yeah. Let's say at 300 watts, you're 15 watts off.
Yeah.
I don't know. If my maths isn't that good, whatever percent that is. Then that's probably like if you're
5%.
If you're okay, there you go. So if you're more than 5% off,
okay, fine.
That's sort of like okay. Well, let's move this to another day.
Okay, the same percentage is just there. Let's make the best guess, right? So,
but if I moved that, right? So if that happened,
if
you need to. Well, why did that happen? That's not normal. It's like. You should investigate what caused that so it doesn't happen.
That's my second question.
Yeah.
So it happens sometimes. Uh-huh. So a lot of amateurs like me, who is not training for that 10 or 15 years, who is not capable with their bodies and legs and feelings enough. So we have a lot of interference work. Like for example, you made a 2 hours hike with the family because it's Sunday.
Yep.
And you went with your kid and wife just going on the rocks, right? So, and then we have this 2.5 hours session and you power jump. So, how other activities like running, hiking, maybe some kind of like other stuff is interference with the cycle train, and should I then manage my schedule based on it?
Yeah.
And what is a junk mass? I'm asking about a junk mass. I was asking because my bad experiences, I'm trying to ride as much as I can, but sometimes if you're going for a 1 hour, the bunch ride, it's become something like, a roller coaster. It's not even it's not an intensity. It's not a zone to ride. It's just it's just a jump mile. That's my question.
Yeah. Okay. So, just on the, like, if you failed that session,
yeah.
The reason why I say it shouldn't happen that often is because if you predict you're going to fail, so it would be kind of strange to just get on the bike and you're more than 5% off and you had no idea.
Yeah.
That like you usually get up in the morning, oh, my legs are cooked, or my kid was up but middle of the night, and you would usually have some signs. So usually I would say don't put yourself through the pressure and the torture of just trying a session and inevitably failing it and then having to move it. It'd be better to just go, if you can start to detect the feelings you get subjectively internally, where you know that's not going to work, or if it's something it's not even if it's something out of your control. Let's say it's like a heat wave comes in, and you know you're going to be up that far from the power. Just move it ahead of time. Don't just butt your head against the wall trying to do it, and then have to make the decision. So there should be some signs that you're not going to be right on. And as you said, if you did like a 2-hour hike the day before, or you spent all day in the garden doing your gardening, it was really hot. Perhaps just adjust your schedule around, move it one day over.
Okay.
And just you can always do low intensity, do your endurance ride as an opener, get the body moving, do it, and then just do the following day.
So it's okay to switch, the sessions.
Oh, you have to. Yeah. That's not just okay to do. I encourage it. It's vital. You should always be thinking, what do I got on tomorrow? What's on the next day? What's life got for me? How should I move this around? How can I, that's like constant. You should be trying to do that. I think a lot of the training platforms do some version of this now. Like if you leave your subjective ratings in the morning, I think they shift things around, or you leave your post session ratings and they'll readjust. Like you have to. That's like the most important thing to do. Otherwise, the session we talked about where you had just like you felt amazing and so you lifted the power and you had that breakthrough. That only usually that will come more often by properly adjusting things, and like those are gold. You want to be getting those like every 2 or 3 weeks. You've lined them up well, and you have that breakthrough that generates a momentum where you're progressing more. If you're not doing that and you continue I had my intense session, I was tired and I'm bumping, and you just sort of feel like you're just getting like you're in a washing machine. It's really hard to progress because you're not creating the stimulus at the right time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So what about junk miles?
So I guess you've got like high TSS junk miles.
Yeah, of course.
And then you've got just like low TSS. You're probably talking about like the hour, and it's like a couple of surges, and it's probably like 70. It probably ends up being quite high TSS because you did a couple of sprints and surges.
It's like 70 TSS. It's like a city rise. Right. Yeah, especially in Sydney, for example. You're just riding with the city, and up there's the climb, up there's my 1 minute power.
If it's like low load, if there's shifts like less than an hour, usually you just try and work. You try and stick to your schedule, and then you just try and work them in, and carry on. That would be my first thing. Would be like, well, just try and work it in and carry on, and see how you feel the next day, and see how you get on with that session. And you sort of just adding it in as just like time on the bike. If it's high, but if it's like a 3-hour group ride that ends up being total junk, then you just shift your rest day around, take the rest day the next day, and then just get back into the schedule. It's almost impossible to try and be more granular with that, to classify that as, did that count as a training session? That's very, very hard. I struggle with that. When you're looking at someone's training, it's hard to really classify like green light, that was a training session. Red light, that was just kilometers, and you can just do your structured session the next day. You can't really.
It's always something in between, right?
Yeah.
Some usually like 15 minutes or 20 minutes on FTP, but
what is going in time? Usually the time and zone thing is just like they're all like the equals time and everything because it's not a structured session.
Even a neuromuscular,
Yeah. So that's why I would if you could just go like high load endurance ride the next day, or just take your rest day and get back into your training. If it's a low load, then you just try and work it in. And if you're generally healthy, fit, physical, you can kind of absorb that just fluctuation.
Should you avoid this kind of session, or it's totally fine?
Wait, were you saying these junk rides are sort of like it's a Tuesday morning and it's replacing the training session, or something you inadvertently?
Yeah. It's like you have a zone 2 Tuesday morning ride, and your friend's saying, "Hey, let's go for the bike ride, right?" And you say, "Oh, well, why not, so guys? Yeah, well, let's try to beat them up at 6 a.m. So, and there is the 30K on the 500 meters of elevation. It's a climb, and of course you fucked up on a few climbs because you're trying to beat your friends. So there's the whole idea.
I see what you mean. You just go back to first principles again. So you go, okay, It's a Tuesday. It's an hour and a half of junk. I still need to do my 2 intense sessions in the week. If you're not, you'd have to really, again, it's hard to quantify. Is that, so actually what I would say would be try and, instead of just looking at it and going, well, what was that? Try and go in with an intention of like, I'm going to try and take this on the easier side if I can. And it's just junk endurance, right? Mm-hmm. And all the rest of the week is as planned, and I'm still getting my overload and my frequency is still good. And it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's right.
It's a sloppy endurance ride. That's all right.
Yeah.
Or you just go, actually, there's a few hills in this. So I'm actually just going to go slightly harder and try and push on in between if I can. And it's a junk intense day.
Yeah.
Right? Try and make it one or the other would be probably is what I would usually recommend. And that's what I do with rides. I say like unstructured intense junk or unstructured endurance junk. And then you're working the rest of the week around it. So that if it was in the intense, it was on the harder side of things and you go in with that intention, then your next intense day would be that Saturday, for example. And the other days are just your endurance. That's the only thing you can do, really. That's how I would work it in. Try and classify it. So you go in with the correct intention.
Is there a chance if you, for example, feel awesome? I mean, on this kind of, the junk context, right? With the mob, should I, for example, go through them to the park and trying to make my intense intervals day because I'm already making a few intense climbs and I feel good and I feel like I beat. And the next morning, I'm already feel I will be tired because I made intensity. Maybe I should push harder today because I feel good and, close my, check my...
Yeah, for sure. That's the other thing. You go do, it might be 40 minutes of sort of slopping around, kind of hard. Then you go in and you do 2 by 10.
2 by 10, not 3 by 10.
Yeah, you don't do the whole session. That's not 150, 180 TSS. So you just go in, you just do your 2 by 10 or 20 minutes or whatever. Definitely, and you just cap that session off, and that's another thing you can do. 100%.
Cool. Okay, the next block, low cadence work. What do you think? Is it worth it? Overhyped? Hot or not?
If you're doing strength training, I'd be less hot on it. Mm-hmm. And just by like low cadence work, what I believe works best would be anything from 2 minutes, maximum of 8 minutes as an effort. And the power needs to be high, and the intensity needs to be high. And the cadence needs to be at least below 60. Ideally, anything from like 40 to 50. Actually, I'm going to say 40 to 55. So we're talking actually low cadence and a shorter duration effort, so the torque is actually high. I'm not talking about like, I'll go and do 20 minutes at 65 RPM. That's not high torque work. So we're talking like some kind of that, like 4 minute efforts at FTP at 50 RPM, 45 RPM.
Okay.
So if you're doing strength training, I'd be less hot on it. If you're not well trained, I would be less hot on it, because it's less aerobic stimulus for more fatigue.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So if you're an amateur, this person that we're talking about doing 8 to 10, and you don't have a huge training background, I probably wouldn't prescribe it. You're going to get fitter just doing self-selected cadence work. So you'll do higher power, it's more strain. It's the same aerobic strain with less fatigue. You'll recover better, you'll generate more training momentum, you'll improve better.
Yeah, so it's like a next level of adaptation seeking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you need to be prepared for it. So it's like if we will see like a pyramid, right?
Yeah.
Or it's one of the the upper levels. That's why pros talking about it.
Yeah,
so because they're looking for a new kind of stimulus.
Yeah, they can recover from it, and they're kind of looking for doing another 25 hours with regular threshold efforts. It's not generating enough stimulus
because they're making it for 20 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also the muscle fiber titers that fatigue more when you're doing high torque work can help with durability too. Mm-hmm. And that's more relevant for a pro rider. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're just trying to put 15 watts on your 10-minute power, it's an unnecessary thing to do for most amateurs. In saying that, for the right way, for a more elite rider, I've done like quite a few low cadence blocks. I personally respond really well.
Because you are very strong. So it's different, right?
Yeah, like it's something I think as a general, for an amateur, I wouldn't go straight in with, but it can be interesting it's definitely one that would be up there to experiment with. Just to try not even too long, try like a 6-week block of it. As I said, I respond well to it. I've coached riders who respond well to it. Some riders absolutely hate it, in which case okay, fine. I'm not going to fight that battle. Don't worry about it. And some riders don't really notice the difference. It seems to be quite individual for some reason, the high torque work.
And if you want to incorporate, high torque work, you should, replace your 3x10, for example, to 4x5, or
you should
4x5 plus.
I would do it. I would do this earlier in the season. That's the other
like a base phase.
Yeah, like in a base phase or pre-build or early in the build. If you've got a long build, if you're doing like 10 weeks of building or even longer, you're doing like a 12-week build phase.
Okay.
The first 6 weeks of it, half, you might do like one of the sessions, my torque.
Okay, so heat training.
Yep.
What about it? How, when, and what do you think in general? So you already said that heat training is a big thing.
Yes. Okay, heat training, doing it. If assuming someone has an event, doing it for an event is the best way. That's when you get the most out of it. So you can.
I'm prior to how many weeks?
From about 5 weeks out.
5 weeks out.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Just because you can, if let's say you're not racing or doing a hot event, but you don't want to, you want to see if heat training works to get you fitter.
Yeah.
Don't just do it randomly. Like you have to do it at a time. Again, like you would even do it 5 weeks out from when you want to do whatever testing you want to do. Some people will, quite a lot of people see a fitness increase from it, even if they're not racing. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, and some pros, it's confusing. There's pros often do it early in the season. They'll be doing it in December and January because they might be coming to Tour Down Under or they've got a preseason camp. Or the other thing is some pros might do heat training in winter and then maintain it for like 4 months. Because, to get heat acclimated, you have an intense block of it where you're doing it really frequently. You might do 5 or 6 heat exposures a week. For 3 weeks.
Okay. For 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, it's huge block.
But to maintain it doesn't take as much. So a pro might do it. You might be like, why are they doing that in February or something? And it's because they'll do that and then they'll have their heat exposures. They'll do 2 a week to maintain the adaptation. But they might maintain it for like 3 or 4 months. For most of us, we don't want to be... It's awful. It sucks. We don't have time to do it. So it's sort of, we get in, we do the block of it before, like from 5 weeks out. I like to do it a little bit earlier just to give you, sometimes there's a learning curve to it and the adaptations do linger on. So it's better it's better to do it like 5 weeks out.
Mm-hmm.
You do, so it's far, and often the early right in the middle of the heat acclimation run, you feel like shit. So you kind of want to get through that. So you go from week 5 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out is you do the heat acclimation block. It needs to be minimum of 4 exposures a week in that block. So
how long? How intense?
It depends. If you're doing passive, so like a sauna or a hot bath, 25 to 30 minute exposure.
Okay.
Ideally directly after a ride.
Oh, okay. So one way is to make heat adaptation is get a sauna.
Yes.
Or bunny just after the ride, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The second one is to have a sauna suit or some kind of like, the work clothing.
Yes.
So on a trail.
Yeah.
Is there any difference? Or is just,
like they're like 85% the same. I can't remember exactly what there's a few adaptations that the active sessions give you. I can't remember what they are. It's been a while since I looked on the research that the passive sessions don't give you. And so, but vast majority of the benefits come from either passive or active.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So and passive is way easier. It's way easier to just go for a ride and get in a sauna.
Yeah. And you're not breaking your, the riding schedule. You're not breaking. So you're still doing intervals, bunch rides, the long ride.
You have to lower the load a bit because you can't just do your not training in it.
How much? Lowering?
You would if you're doing you would take some of the intensity out. So instead of doing like 3x10, you would drop that to 2x10 during a heat acclimation vlog.
Oh, okay. Nice for see.
And then you might also shorten the rides a bit because if instead of doing 3 hours on Saturday, 3 hours on Sunday, you just do 2 or 2.5, get home, get in the sauna. So your total active time is similar.
Is the same.
And then this is also in the weeds, but as you would generally try and do the passive work earlier in the heat acclimation block. And then if you're doing a race, so like week 5, 3, and 2 out, mostly your sauna or your hot water bath. Maybe you try 2 or 3 heat trainer sessions there. And then to get the last, that gap in adaptation that is there for the active sessions, it's not there for the passive ones, you do that close to the event. But that's also once you've already gotten the base level of adaptations, the faster onset of sweating, the blood volume the plasma volume expansion, they all come on from the passive. And then you can go and do the heat sessions on the trainer from maybe like 3, 2, and 1 week out. Then you go to your race. But once you've done 4 to 6 exposures a week for 3 weeks from 5 weeks out, or others, you only need 2, maybe 3 to maintain it.
Okay.
Which is nice. And that also helps because
much easier.
You're the strain's less, so you actually start to feel quite good. You only really start to feel good in that after it. Yeah.
Okay. So, and your choice is just the sound after drink, not the on a trainer.
Yeah, I've done really successful heat acclimation blocks where I've only done literally 3 active sessions. The rest is all sauna.
Okay, nice. That's cool. And how many, for example, wattage increase you get?
None. You get less of a decrement in the heat.
Yeah, nice. Everybody is thinking, right? So, this percent I will do, 2 weeks heat adaptation. I will get massive 50 watts of it.
It's huge, right? So if you take a rider that's not heat acclimated and get them exercise in really hot conditions, it could be 15% aerobic power drop off.
Yeah.
And so you'll probably still get some power drop off, but you might go from 15% to 4%.
Okay.
So you're talking like 10% relative increase. You're off.
Yeah, that's hugely different.
Massive. I've never done it in a way, and I'm not aware of any research where it's done it as in just regular conditions for a fitness improvement. How much you get, I couldn't even tell you. I don't.
Okay, gotcha.
But the time I was the fittest I'd ever been was after a heat acclimation block. That was when I trained for our Australian Road Nationals in 2022.
You made a heat acclimation 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's far beyond all this YouTube hype.
I've been doing it. We did Tour of the Philippines in 2019. I did it for that. I've been doing it for ages.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when I did it for that Nationals, I did my best ever 8-minute power, like 490 something watts for
490
8 minutes. I can't touch that. That was some of my best. Raw, not even, and wasn't even hot. That was just pure. We went up to Brooklyn, which is a climb up in Sydney.
Yeah, I know. I've really
up there.
Awesome climb.
Got the KOM and 490 something for 8 minutes.
490. Yeah.
And it wasn't hot. So it does that. I don't know what it would have been without the heat acclimation, but it's. Yeah, there's obviously, to some degree, it's helping even if it's not hot.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So, if you we already know, so we should fuel from, up from 60 up to 120, the grams of carbs per hour during the race. So, because of the high efforts. So, what about training? Pre-training fueling, the inner training fueling, post-training fueling. So, is it necessary or we get stay that?
Yeah, I think the people get the in-ride fueling people get now. It's like if it's an endurance ride, I do 50 to 70. If it's a long endurance ride, I do 70 to 90. If it's got efforts, 80 to 100.
Okay.
If it's really hard, it's 100. Yeah, most people kind of know that now. I think what people aren't aggressive enough with is especially the post ride, because even if you have had 120 grams of carbs an hour during the ride, you will most likely still be finishing the ride in a deficit.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the enzyme activity, all the pathways are all open post ride. Your insulin spikes, it's all pulled into the muscle way more effectively post ride. So people, I think, now that people understand in-ride fueling, the next kind of gain to make is being way more aggressive post ride. So that might be. Assuming you're not you're 110 kilos, so these numbers might not be right for you, but you might go If it's a 3 or 4 hour with efforts, you go 1.2 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight directly after the ride, down the hatch. That might be a bottle of, it could be complete garbage, bottle of soda and a chocolate milk, right?
Oh, yes.
Or if you want to be healthy, it could be some protein yogurt and honey and some fruit juice, right?
Okay.
But being way more aggressive post-ride, that's for the big ride. Even then, you might be doing kind of 0.5 for even hour and a half endurance with sprints. You might be doing something like 0.5 to 0.6 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight post-ride, even if you don't feel like you need it, because the point is you're shifting calories from later in the day to directly post-ride, and you'll do that naturally, because what you'll notice if you haven't done that before and you start to do it, you won't feel like it, but if you just shove it down the hatch, you'll be like, oh wow. We get to 3 o'clock and you go, oh, I'm not hungry. That's weird. I'm usually hungry. Why am I not hungry? Because, and then you will naturally, people are scared to do that because they go, well, my calories are going to go up because I'm eating all these extra calories, but it doesn't happen like that because you're less hungry. Your appetite, as soon as you're a healthy adult, your appetite controls that and you'll naturally eat less later in the day. So that's the biggest thing. And the same thing pre-ride, always having, that one's, you don't really need a number for because it depends how much you can try, but some food beforehand. Even if it's just a piece of toast or a ready to drink kind of, in Australia, we have these things called up and goes. It's just like a little meal replacement sort of, it's a more drinky thing. It's like a milk-based thing. Just something like that. Just have something in your stomach before you get going. And I spoke with a rider yesterday that started doing that because I prescribed this, and they were like, I'd never really done this before. I didn't really think to do it. I just was doing what I did, which was, I was sort of got my in-ride fueling right, and then I would just sort of get on to my next meal. And I can't believe how much they're probably in the similar case of what we've talked about. They've just recently stepped up their training load, and they're like, oh, this is easy. This training's easy. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, like you don't have to suffer. And it doesn't, just because the training is easy doesn't mean the stimulus isn't there. So we're not going to just start throwing an extra 5 hours at you because it feels easier. Mm-hmm. But that's what that pre, during, post, particularly the post, does that kind of thing.
And the common scenario, you waking up at 5:30 a.m. and you have a ride at 6 a.m. and it's maybe it's intervals or a bunch ride. Mm-hmm. So should I ride prior to it, or what should I ride? So prior to my ride, or I just, start pedaling and then making some gels, or what kind of food?
You should eat, so even if it's liquid.
Yeah.
So have something.
All right.
I can't envision a ride, maybe like an hour and a half endurance, and it's super early in the morning and you just sort of, you're half asleep and you just start riding and then you just get onto your mix or whatever. But it's just and it's also a habit thing. Have some sultanas, or have anything, some crackers, just get some food in.
Okay.
And also, the other thing is, if you don't, because a lot of us now are doing more gels and liquids in ride. And the other problem is, if you don't eat solids before, you can get this strange feeling, I don't know if you've got it before, where you're fueling well, but you're hungry.
Yeah.
It's awful. It sucks.
Yeah, that's mine.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
And so, especially if you're going over 2 hours, so you need some solid, have a banana, some solid food, not even for fueling, just so it's sitting in your stomach.
Okay.
And then you can just stick with your gels and whatever you're having in ride.
Like that kind of old bars.
Yeah.
Fine, right? Yeah. So because it's solid and it's big enough, cut enough, and the energy enough for it to separate.
Yeah.
Okay, it's something per the ride. Even it's 15 minutes per the ride, right? It's fine.
Yes. Yeah.
So the best scenario is 2 hours per the ride. Some kind of like a big breakfast, or like oatmeal with the banana and peanut butter.
It does not really. I wouldn't say that's best. Yeah. I don't know. If you're feeling well within the ride and you're not coming in depleted, just
your perfect morning. Your perfect breakfast before the ride.
The big breakfast is more important if you're doing a really long ride.
Okay.
So back when I was training a lot, I would ride a bit later. I might start the ride at 8:30. So I'd get up, I'd have like a bowl of porridge,
mm-hmm.
and a coffee, and use like the higher protein milk in the porridge, some fruit,
mm-hmm.
and that's a substantial, slow digesting meal. You might feel a little sluggish in the first half an hour of the ride. Your insulin's probably picked, because if you're having that meal more than 15 minutes before, your insulin will start to pick up.
Exactly.
And then you can feel a bit slow, a bit groggy, but if it's a long ride, usually that doesn't matter. You worked you out of the first 30 minutes of the ride, and then you're good to go. Then I would just do the whole ride. I would probably not even take any. I might take a token piece of solid food on the ride, like a little fruit bar or something. Mm-hmm. And I'd have that like 2 hours in, again, just to keep the stomach settled. But all the actual, that's not for fuel. That's just to keep the stomach settled. Mm-hmm. All the rest of the fuel would just be from sugar water or gels or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next, if you're fueling enough prior, during, and post-ride, I mean in carbs and protein, should you stay away of the carbs whole other, the parts of day? Or you should stay, the still carb loading. So I'm asking because, there are a lot of people who are amateurs who are showing 8 hours, 10 hours. They struggling to gain weight because they eat too much, especially, some kind of like cookies, the cake, that's something there, something here. So what do you think? So it should be some kind of like a clean, the protein salad kind of food, or it should... Maybe
yeah, so you've done pre, during, post.
Yeah.
You're eating enough protein in the day. So you should, if you don't know if you're eating enough protein, you should measure it, track what you eat.
Yeah.
And people give different ranges. Unless you're really heavy, like aim for 2 grams of protein per kilogram. Aim for 2. It's not that hard. I mean, especially if you add a protein shake or something, it's quite easy to get. Aim for 2 grams. Assuming you're doing that, well, the thing with the cookies and the muffins, they're really high fat.
Yeah.
So it's not really the carb that the problem in that, it's high fat content. Okay. Well. So your protein's steady, you're fueling your ride well. Just think about it this way. What are the carbs doing? You eat carbs. It gets primarily stored as muscle glycogen.
Yeah.
Which you will then burn the next day when you go for your ride. If you eat the fat, some of it will get burnt, but unless you're fully ketogenic,
yeah,
your body will be burning some mix of carb and fat, and the excess fat. What does excess fat get? Dietary fat gets stored. Fat, which is then quite difficult to burn the next ride because especially if you're training, you're burning a good amount of carbs. And so, assuming your protein's adequate, and I'm not saying don't eat fat, I'm just saying there's no need to not eat carbs throughout the rest of the ride. And if you're training a lot, you actually should prioritize the carbs over the fat because it is more useful. It is stored as a more readily available, useful fuel. Mm-hmm. So no, I wouldn't say, I'd actually say the opposite. I'd say don't pull back on the carbs throughout the rest of the day. I'd say try and eat according to your appetite, which will be under control if you've fueled it well and eaten enough protein. And for someone that's training a lot, the mix should be more heavily skewed towards carbs than fat.
Gotcha.
I'm not even going to give a number of percent because it's just sort of unnecessary. It's just you would have your meal, have your whatever the protein source is, have rice. You might have a beer. Yeah, and you might have a bit of, you might have a bit. I'm not saying avoid fat. You might have a bit of avocado. Right? Okay, that's your meal. Some people would say, because you're not riding, you can actually really pull back on the carbs and have like a little bit of rice and a whole avocado.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes any sense.
Or stir-fried chicken with a lot of fat on it, right? So
that doesn't make sense.
Chicken carbs with a whole bunch of fat on it.
If you're looking at your meal and you're trying to get fitter, there should be more carb and keep the fat. You need to keep your calories under control. The better place to do that is by keeping the fat on the lower end.
Yeah, and because this fat is high density in calories.
Yeah.
So it's 9 calories per each gram of fat, right? So compared to 4 grams of carbohydrates. Nice. Bicarbonate supplements.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Worth a try.
Yeah.
It's not even that. If you go on that, Australian Institute of Sport has a really good supplement breakdown where they group the supplements into group A, B, C based on the level of evidence. I think bicarb is in group A, the strongest level of evidence.
Oh, nice.
And they have all these info sheets that tells you exactly how to do it. Has all the research. It tells you all what the benefits are. It tells you the dosage and the timing. Try it.
So how to implement it, the bicarb in training or just racing? So should I take it prior my intense to sessions like training session or just a race day?
So you would obviously try it out first. You try it in a race. I can't even remember what the dosage is. You can look it up on the infographic. I'll probably send you the link. Or thanks at all. I guess that'll just try it. If your stomach handles it, you're good. If your stomach doesn't handle it and you still want to try it, Morton make the stuff in the paste you can try. Just try the regular bicarb from the supermarket first. You mix it in a drink. For most people, that's how we always did it. And then if that's not working for you, try Morton. Yeah, that's a good question. Should you use it in training?
So I'm asking because is it helps to adapt, or is it a part of the cheating? Like a electric vehicle said, yeah. So you make more power, but with the less fatigue.
Well, it's an interesting. I haven't really researched it. I actually don't know, because it will, if you do it properly, it'll allow you to do more power, which I would think is more of a training stimulus. But if it's allowing you to do more power by blunting the acidity in the blood,
yeah, exactly.
This is just theoretical, that could be blunting a training stimulus that comes directly from that. And so you're kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're doing more power, but the training stimulus
is lower.
Could be. I don't know. Most people, anecdotally, like the Australian track team, I know that use it, like they generally don't train with it. They will use it in races, and they will use it in the lead up to races to get it all dialed in, but generally for training, that, as far as I'm aware, they don't. Yeah, I don't regularly. It's not like once a week, once every 2 weeks, they're doing a bicarb loaded session. I don't think so.
It could work like, the cold plunges. When you cold plunging after the workouts, it reduces stimulus.
Yes. Yeah.
It could be this. It
could be.
Yes. Yeah. Increase, the recovery.
And some people say similar, like if you finish a ride and you have heaps of antioxidants, like a really strong antioxidant food, it can kind of sometimes gear up the training response.
Yeah.
It could be something like that.
A lot of vitamins here.
Yeah. So that would be the only thing. I haven't really looked into it though. For most people, I'm getting to do bicarb is just dial it in and use it on a race.
Okay. So safe strategy is to use it, during the race. Yeah, and try quite a few in the session to figure out how it works with your stomach.
Yeah.
Can you handle it, or, which type of form, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Supplements. The must-do supplements for a cyclist.
The must-do ones are potentially the dietary ones, like iron, B12, but you should get blood tested to know if you're going to benefit from those. Like iron, B12, vitamin D, folate, those four in particular help red blood cell production. If any of those are low, vitamin D helps immunity and bone health. So those would be like the first, before you look at any ergogenic aid, is like the nutritional supplements. Know if you need to take them by getting a blood test, and then if you need to take them, take them. That's like the biggest ones. There's not that many supplements. You listed one, bicarb. Creatine, yes, if you're doing strength training. Creatine if you're doing strength training, creatine if you want to improve your sprint, probably as well creatine just generally as an endurance athlete, unless you're really watt per kilo focused, it's probably worth just including creatine for like 90% of people.
Okay.
Beta-alanine has good research. Beta-alanine is a pain in the ass because to actually take it properly, to accumulate enough in the muscles, you have to take 4 doses a day for 3 months with food.
Too much. It's really hard.
That's a big, that's for most people, it's not worth it. L-carnitine is pretty good research, but is similar. The amount you absorb is so low, you have to accumulate them from muscle. So beta-alanine and L-carnitine, I wouldn't even bother with. And you'll see like pre-workout supplements include beta-alanine and you get the tingles. It's literally doing nothing.
Oh, really?
No. If you actually look up, how do I take this for endurance performance? Oh, load it for 3 months, 4 doses a day. You're like, wait, why am I taking one scoop of that? It doesn't.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Beetroot, nitrates.
Yeah.
They don't need to be loaded. You can load them for like 3 or 4 days before an event.
Okay.
That's the best one.
It's like a beetroot juice.
Beetroot juice, or you can buy the sport shots.
Broccoli juice, or the same way.
Broccoli
juice. Okay, let's
pure beetroot juice, or you can buy the shots, which is all concentrated in.
Yeah.
And you take them. You only need to load them for like 3 days before, and then the morning before the event, 2 or 3 hours before.
So
I would, it works. Yeah. So I wouldn't even bother with beta-alanine or L-carnitine. It's too hard. Just go beetroot, creatine, caffeine.
Okay. Bicarb.
bicarb, your dietary supplements.
Ketones.
No.
Just marketing bullshit.
If you're really loaded, so creates ketones for recovery has some decent research, but you have to take those like shots are like $12 each or something.
Yeah.
And the correct dose is 2 of them, and you have to take them every day.
Okay.
Actually, no, they're not $12. I think they're like 40. The Delta G ketones. Probably look this up. I think they're not 12. They're like $30 or $40 each. You have to take 2 of them every day, and I think that can help boost EPO levels slightly and help with recovery. So, but yeah, not acutely within a ride. So ketones, if you just want to if you have unlimited budget, yeah, order a few boxes of the Delta G ketones and take 2 of them after every ride or for a couple of months.
And you've been holding your lumbar here, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's not total bullshit, but it's just from 99% of people, it's cost prohibitive.
All right, okay. Fancy peptides, some maybe.
Oh, well, they're all banned. You're not allowed to take them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So,
SARMs, peptides. You can't. Well, if you just, I mean, I don't really.
okay.
If you're purely an amateur and you're not doing really competing in anything tested, you could look into that. I don't really know what it's not really my.
Maybe.
Yeah. You're probably you probably go to it's more like the gym scene probably have. There are some, there's like Osterine, and I think the sprinters that's one of those peptides. Some of the sprinters get popped for that.
Oh,
There are peptides and SARMs that help build muscle.
like growth hormones. Okay.
Yeah, you're like analogs for that.
Okay. Track cyclists often do it. I mean, indoor velodrome kind of stuff.
Yes, yeah, but
They're litters to be honest.
those entire categories of substances are essentially all banned.
Okay, so yeah, okay, got it. So the next block. So we have running out of time, but the next block, the bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, kudos to you for a travel bike, Chinese bike. So I'm in that kind of particular people who tried Chinese bike a year ago, and I'm totally they changed my mind.
What did you try?
A lot of things. Wind space. I'm trying wind space right now. I've took all wind spaces from your local dealer Matt, who's wind space. They've tried that.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
Evolve. I've tried the Evolve Chima. What else? Twitter. It's a Chinese cheap bike.
Yeah. I see photos of that on Facebook groups.
It's a garbage, but it's cheap for people who just start in cycling. That's fair. That's great. So that I will try Quick Pro next month. So, and I will try to find a way how to get it in color, the new one.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, thin as hell.
They're very hard to get.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm knocking at the door. Get back one trial.
Yeah, the friend of mine, he's in a professional race in a Chinese team. And untried else fella bike.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, harsh as hell, too heavy, but fast. Really. So, and kudos to you for the Chinese bike, for testing Chinese bike. And I think you are the first one with the Chris who's tested the Chinese bike in a wind zone. So, the main question first, if you want to create the best value for money bike setup for a racing, what it should be? Best value for money.
Best value for money is hard because most people instantly go Chinese, but if you don't build it yourself, you got to pay a mechanic.
Yeah.
The costs start to add it up. So if it's just, if you're just talking about value, obviously the benefit of that is if you're custom building a Chinese bike, you can customize all the bits. You can get all the gearing how you want it and that kind of thing. So it is the optimal way. I would say it's the budget conscious way to build an optimal race bike for yourself.
Okay.
But it's not pure of this too, because in Australia, you can go down and get a Giant fully built. For a Giant Propel, fully built with 105, and it'll probably be cheaper than sourcing the parts yourself and paying a mechanic to build it. Because paying a mechanic costs a full build is probably $400 or $500, and you can buy a fully built Giant for like $3,000 to $4,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, now we're talking about your term. It's I like it more because you need to, adjust your crank blade, new stem blade, all this stuff. So we're talking about the people who want to race.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to adjust the bike for yourself.
Yeah.
Like the width of the handlebars, narrow handlebars, long stem, the short cranks, like whatever. So
yeah. Oh, well, pick your frame. And it's about do you want one of the, what we call the do-it-alls, like the SL8 style frame, something like a Tavello. What else can I see? I would say Seeker Spear, but it's too expensive. I think it's too expensive.
Yeah.
What's another?
Evolve Chila.
Evolve against. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. I have this thing where I more than $2,000 for a Chinese frame. If you just want like a do-it-all, I don't understand, because you could just get a Tavello. And if you don't like the Tavello branding,
okay, let's say you personally, you would like to build best, not really for money, the custom.
Well, I've built mine, I've done it. All right, so I want a Tavello frame.
If you will start from scratch, right?
If we're going to start from...
Should you change something?
What would I change on my bike? So for those that don't know, my bike is a Tavello Aero frame. It's a do-it-all aero tweaked race bike.
Yeah. Not the lightest one.
No.
It's stiff enough.
Yeah, and not fully. It doesn't have really deep tubes. It doesn't look like an S5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have Ultegra DI2 on it. I have Cyber 165mm cranks. Chainrings. I didn't have a good time with the Past Quest, which is a Chinese brand chainring. So I used chainrings from a Dutch company called the Mechanic Parts, which I think chainrings is worth investing in, because good chainrings that shift well and you never drop a chain is worth it.
Okay.
And for really good, having nice front shifting quality is worth it. There's nothing more annoying than every time you got to shift into the big ring at the front, you're wincing and you press the button, you go,
So your choice is 2x, right? Not 1x.
Yes, 2x. Wheels. Oh, there's so many wheels you could pick from. I use ones from an Australian brand called Cadence,
That's nice.
They test well, and then they're quite good value, but you could pick really so many different the Chinese brands do the wheels. I have settled now for 2026. I still recommend steel spokes if you can get them.
How many is the box?
I think the Cadence ones I have is 18 front.
Okay.
Couple more, I think 20 something in the rear. Generally the lowest on a steel spoke or even a carbon spoke, the lowest spoke counts are pretty good. Now I think with CRW wheels I tried carbon spoked. Again, 16 or 18 spokes in the front, they ride well. So that's the lowest spoke count in the front's fine.
Okay. So let's start from the fray. If you're building from scratch, right now in 2026, January 14th, right? It still will be the well frame, right? Or your personal bike.
My personal bike, because I'm quite heavy and strong, I can ride fast on the flat, I would probably pick something that's a little deeper tubed. Maybe I would get so I would probably get something like the Quick Pro ER1.
Okay.
But the Tavello is like, without the handlebars, I think is like $1,650 USD. And with handlebars, I think is $1,750 or $1,800.
1,800.
And I can afford whatever bike I want. I have a good business. So it's not what I can afford, but for what I kind of like to represent, when you can get a really good Tavello, and the Tavello is it's not deep tubed, but the fork's quite deep. It's very narrow. It's actually, even though it's one, I think it's like 1 or 2 years old now, it is quite narrow. Deep head tube, nice down tube. When you can get that for sub 2,000, it makes it less compelling for the 2,400, 2,500 USD frames. So I would stick with Tavello.
Okay, Tavello, nice. Okay. Then, handlebar, the width of handlebar. Okay, just the width.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I used to use 38s.
Yeah.
As a part of an experiment, I don't know if you see Arm Peters on Instagram, this kind of modern very high stack position where you get this long stem and you flip it upside down and you run your super narrow handlebars. Yeah. I experimented with that, and I think I got handlebars that were like 30 in the tops.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know what it was. And so you mentioned you've done like aero testing yourself before.
Yeah.
I am like into aerodynamics as from like a entertainment hobby. I find it fun to talk about. I'm not out doing Chung method aero testing or going to the velodrome. I'm not interested. I'm kind of like, it's more half for entertainment.
Okay.
So for me, I didn't notice that the super narrow handlebars were faster. Actually, when I went to those super narrow handlebars, I couldn't hold low in the front. Like my shoulders would get sore. My forearms,
because the shoulder is wide enough.
yeah, my triceps would get sore.
Okay.
And I was in this position, and I'm like, fuck, I'm on a time trial bike. This is going to be quick. From the efforts I did, I couldn't really notice how much faster it was. And it was just very hard to hold the low position. I had to break position more. So I've actually gone back to standard 40s, which was partly because of the UCI rules. I knew they since updated them. I think you can come in narrow on the hoods now.
Yeah.
But I did this back when they set the width back to 40. And since going back to that, it's wider. You look at me from the front and I don't look as fast, but I can hold the Rockdorfer position way easier with less strain through my upper body. So 40. For me, 40, if you're probably a bit smaller, 30, I'd go a 38. For me, I'm not as hot on these 36 or narrow line. It's hard to hold.
Yeah, I found the same way. I've tried from 33 up to, the 44. The 44, my shoulders is optimal because I can, they stay pretty damn low for a long time. So
Yeah.
Okay, 40 millimeter bars, all right? So the group set.
Yeah, I'll take it down too.
All takers there too.
Good. I can use 105 there too if I want it. It's a bit heavy. Durace is nice.
Right now.
I wanted to take a bit of weight. I still stick with Shimano. I like everything about SRAM. The battery charging system is just superior. The app ecosystem is superior.
But
the reshifting is slow. I've test ridden a few bikes that come with SRAM, and you press the button to go to a harder gear at the back. It doesn't do anything, and then it shifts. And if you're used to Shimano, it's very hard to go back to SRAM. I'm sure if I just went to SRAM, I would just get used to it. But that delay shifting is annoying. I don't like it.
okay, the chain rings.
Yep.
In the front,
56.42.
56.42 on the back.
Yeah. 11.30.
11.30 in the back.
Yeah. I'm about to do a hilly Gran Fondo in a couple months in March, and I'll go to compact chain rings, 50.34, and I'll put an 11.34 cassette on.
Okay.
But I don't. I ride mostly on the flat. A 42.30 easy gear is, we don't have in Sydney. There's not that many. You don't often hit 8+% gradient. So on the 6 and 7% gradients, a 42.30 easy gear is easy enough. So I love having the 50.
Please do. Yeah.
For me, yeah.
Wheels.
I would stick with the cadence.
Yes.
I had the CRW 5060s. There's no specific thing about a light carbon spoked wheel that causes it to be unstable in crosswinds. It's not just the carbon spokes. It's not just that they're light, but as a general rule, fairly light carbon spoked wheels don't handle crosswinds well. And the modern steel spoked wheels are actually pretty light. Generally, you're only saving between 60 to 90 grams going from steel spokes to carbon spokes. So steel spokes, wide rim. I've got the new cadence he just released. I think they're 25 internal and 34.5 external.
And they faster than NV and
faster than NVs, faster than the newer evals.
faster scopes.
About the same as the scope. I mean,
A bit slower than new reserves. But
basically the same as the new reserves, yeah. But lighter.
Larry.
Yeah, the reserves.
Almost 200 grams.
Yeah, the reserves need to go on diet and they'd be really good, I think. And yeah, so I'd stick with cadence. It just makes a good product.
Let's talk numbers. So it's
30 mil front tire, 30 millimeter front tire, 32 millimeter rear tire, and I would not change that no matter what the course is, even if it's dead smooth and I'm on a racetrack.
Okay, so let's talk about the wheels. So numbers, 25 internal.
Yep.
34
I think is 34 or 35
external.
Yeah.
To create some kind of like a 105 rule, right? Right. So the tire.
I think the 105 rule is kind of bullshit. It's just it's more, these wheels work very well with a 30 millimeter front tire. Mm-hmm. Actually, they work just as well. They are just as fast, exact same drag with a 30 mil front tire or a 28. So that width, that's what that width allows you.
Okay.
Aerodynamically, you don't suffer when you put a wider tire on. And also, the wider tire measures wider. So you get the slightly more comfort, slightly more grip.
Yeah, exactly. And the width and the depth, sorry?
His new ones are 63.7. UCI is a new rule. They can't be more than 65 deep. So he's gone right up close to
So, and your depth will be?
They're 63.
Okay, so you're choosing 63 points, so.
Oh, so that's
So you had a discussion with the Chris, right? Between the 50 and 60.
Well, when I've hit,
Yeah. And you said,
these are like about as good at handling 60 mil dig wheel as you're ever going to find. But you still catch a crosswind. I think for most people, even for myself, I would still have a spare front wheel on hand of 50 mil, just for windy days. Wheels is kind of hard to pick one. You just basically, if you pick a 60, you should probably also buy a front 50.
Okay.
Just for windy days. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the front wheel's gets affected by the crosswinds more.
Okay. Power meter?
Favero, Asio, and Baduos, which I've had two
Newas? Are they or just look pedals or Shimano?
Look, the regular look ones. I've had these since I was on the NERO team, which was like, these are on now, I think their 4th year.
Okay.
You just replace the bearings.
Okay.
They're good, yeah.
Yeah, cranks?
Cybre carbon cranks,
165.
165s. They're a bit lighter than standard cranks, shorter crank length, and they're more comfortable in the aero position.
Why not Margin power meter? New, like they have a new, power meter, Margin cranks, lighter.
Crank-based power meters don't make sense to me because you change bike and you lost your power meter. You just get power meter pedals. They're with you for almost indefinitely. If you travel, you can take them with you. If you get a new bike, you're all good and it's consistent. So I haven't used a crank-based or a spider-based power meter I just don't think that makes sense. Or if they came with the bike, it's fine. If you're going to buy a power meter, just get Faveros.
Okay, certain.
A Riot carbon saddle. It's from AliExpress.
That's really nice.
That's good.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I've tried it too. That's amazing. So I'm riding Italia, but Riot is almost the same.
Yeah. It costs like $60.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous.
And starting from 130 up to 155. So yeah, it's really cool.
And I've had that for about because I've had that Tavello since August. So it's been a year and 2 or 3 months, and that saddle's fine.
Okay.
Carbon Rabbler.
Second bike, money and object. You can do anything, just anything. From the past, from...
Specialized always do a good job. I would probably wait till the SL9 comes out, and you can guarantee it's going to be good.
No, but not right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's fair.
The row valves aren't super wide, but they're quite a good. I just get an SL9 with row valves, and you can't really go wrong.
But right now, right now,
we talked about this on the show. I don't know when this will go up, but this week there's an Australian team called Team Brennan, and they run Cervelo S5s with reserve wheels, with. It's kind of like the Visma Elisa bike setup, but they can run Conti tires. So they run the Conti TT tire at the front and the Archetype at the back. So it's like a race setup. It would probably, if I just had to sort of go one package, it would probably be, the new S5 with the reserves with some really nice tires. And you can, if I really cared, I could put the cadence on and strip 200 grams off.
Okay, and what about some kind of like fancy things like titanium balls? The Darima seat balls.
Yeah, you could go
rollers.
Right. You could go through and change all your volts, change the rotors.
It's worth it, or you just...
I wouldn't touch the cassette, and I wouldn't touch the chain rings.
Okay.
Anything else, fair game.
Okay, Jay.
Anything to do with the shifting, I've tried one of those lightweight cassettes. I got an in-color cassette, and the shifting wasn't as good. It took it off. Yeah. Shifting is so valuable. Really nice, smooth shifting is just... You don't realize how good... like a Shimano stock shifting is until you try something else and it's just
don't try wheel top, bro.
Right, okay.
Yeah, good. It's so shitty. Okay, so Cervelo S5. Not the Calinaga way, the one the rest, right? Stone.
No, I from all accounts, it has some ride quality and handling issues. Yeah, because of how just funky it's all designed. Its stiffness, the steering. I've had quite a few people just go, it's just...
Yeah, I've tried it.
What was it?
It's harsh as hell.
Yeah, okay.
It's harsh as hell. Just harsh as hell after, the 1 hour you just...
And it's all because it's a first generation.
Yeah, exactly.
They update it, and maybe they update it again. It'll probably be a good bike. The Cervelo has been like the stack it's been for probably 12 years.
Exactly.
And all they've done is make it slightly better and made it slightly better. So you've got this product which you've iterated on probably 5 times now.
But you know what? They in the game, I'm in Kalnaga, they started to make something really new and really special because all the previous bike is just shit,
Yeah.
Just a bike. It's just a bike, nothing special.
And the other thing as well, there are these super bikes like the Y1 RS, you've got the new Factor 1. When you actually look at a lot of the testing, but when you put a rider on them, there's not much data that actually shows that they're really, that there's not, they don't seem to have created this next rung of aero bike.
Exactly.
Everyone's kind of stuck at the S5 level.
Exactly.
When you put a rider on it. So until I see some numbers where it's like, whoa, with a few riders have tested this and you can see some saving there, then I go, okay, I consider it. But right now, it doesn't. The S5 seems to be the ceiling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what? So I've tested Tarmac SL8 versus Evolve Chima versus Cervelo Aspero 5. It's a gravel bike.
Yes.
On velodrome.
Yep.
And with a awesome, the former world champion, track world champion on it. So that wasn't me. That was a guy who can handle all this, all this position all day long. So, and stay smooth and consistent using the NO2 aero sensor, all this, chunk meter stuff, etc. So, and it's always the same.
Yeah.
It's almost the same. On a 45k an hour, the difference is just 1 watt. It's just marginal,
Same wheels, same position.
Same wheels, same position. It's almost the same.
Yeah.
The gravel bike. Yeah, Evolve Chima. And,
although the Aspero 5 is an aero design gravel, it's not like a titanium steel.
Yeah.
So I'm sure.
And I know you're hating some kind of like a all-road kind of thing bikes, but right now they're fast.
Yeah.
But right now they're fast. So I think steel...
Did you do a video on that?
Yeah, of course I have.
Is it on
Yeah, you have it on YouTube.
I'll have a look.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Same kind of with the wheels testing.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea here is right now inside the velodrome. So there is no so many yaw angles, right? So it's just a velodrome inside, but the wider, it's faster for a modern, the tires. I've tested it on the 30Qs, not the 30s.
Yeah.
So the worst one was the Princeton 45, the most expensive one because 21 internal. They fucked up. And LED wheels, $300, USD LED wheels, water in the middle. Mm-hmm. And the fastest one was roll-offs.
Yep. Yeah.
Then I tested it against reserves, the new one. I have 5764 reserve. They're the fastest one. Then roll-offs. Then Andy. Yeah, Zip and all that kind of stuff. But the difference still is just
quite
3 or 4 watts.
Yeah.
45k an hour. So that's really marginal gains. So you cannot buy speed, basically. You can, but it's different if you're running your old, Trek Commander aluminum.
Yeah, for me to hold this whole aero chat is not so like, it's fun to sort of, he's talking now about that.
Exactly.
But it's more about if you're going to put, brand name bikes are expensive, or even bikes in general are expensive. So it's part of it is future proofing yourself. That's why we bang on about wheel widths and stuff. It's if you're going to drop money, you want to be on a bike where in 2 years' time you're happy to keep riding it. Like I'm happy to keep riding my Cervelo, and it's been a year and a few months. Like I would hope that at the end of 2026, I know I go on for free, but if I had bought that I made a good choice, I'm still happy riding it. So it's a lot. Some of it is about that. It's just future proofing yourself. And if you're spending your money. Even if a Cervelo S5 is only 3 watts faster than an SL8, well, it's nice to know you got that 3 watts. You can spend $15,000 on the bike. So it's almost just out of spite you sort of want. You want these things that you might ever. And if you really care about aerodynamics, you're probably going and testing different skin suits and going to the velodrome.
Yeah.
And that's where you will actually...
Aerobri is making the change, right?
That's where you will actually see a lot of difference.
Yeah. Aerobri is, 15 watts from the air.
It just blows anything else. But you would have to test them on yourself, and you would have to invest time into doing that.
Yeah, and it's different. And when during the races and even training, so you're still moving and you're changing position. So that's the main, the thing,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the last block, NERO Show.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, one of the most popular cycling shows on the whole YouTube, on all languages. A lot of people from Russian watching your show. And and when I said to my audience, I will go to meet you, they said, oh my goodness. Don't really. So we have a lot of followers from Russia. So that's really cool. So for the next chapter of it, what the future of NERO Show looks like? What do you think about it? It's more, this crazy aero testing or just, then.
The NERO Show is, and this is part of the problem, right? The NERO Show is an episode a week that people tune into. And so it's not like where does the show necessarily go? It's kind of trying to stay focused because it's sort of like, oh, let's go to Shanghai Bike Show. Let's go to the Tour Down Under.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Tour de France. Let's do this. And then you sort of, and we've been quite good at this of being, okay, hold on. What's going to give us the best episode next week? Because that's what people are actually tuning into. So it's about trying to really stay focused on what's just good chat and what's interesting. And sometimes that's boring for us. Like us floating off to Tour Down Under doesn't really get a better episode in the end of January. Because you walk the pits, it's kind of valuable, but the rest of it is not valuable. So it's actually trying to turn, like a lot of opportunities we turn down because they don't really result in a better podcast episode. But some things do. Going to the wind tunnel is interesting. Chatting with guests is interesting. Doing guest episodes is quite hard because you have to come up with, you had to go, what am I going to ask Jesse about? You got to come up with things. You got to set the time to record it. And then a lot of people are in the US or Europe. So coordinating times. So I think I would love to do more guest episodes. I think they are the most, and they get the most views. They are the most interesting.
Oh, really?
And they don't require traveling, and they're not as sexy. It's not like I get to go to go to the Giro, but that's what 50,000 people are going to click on or more to watch. So I think I'd probably say like genuinely unique things like testing Chinese bikes in the wind tunnel or more guest episodes, just all that, or just even just our regular episodes, but really continually trying to just stay on what are the hot topics, what's trending, what are people not talking about that people find interesting. Yeah, more of that. It's really just actually quite boring in a way. We're not.
No, that's really cool. Yeah. And my personal question, dog of fast bike.
Yeah.
That's genius. Right, that's genius. So, will we change the format or it just works so well, so that's why let's just take this.
Maybe we need some categories for the segment.
Like gravel bikes. It's different, right?
Hey, no. We're not doing gravel bikes. We're not doing triathlon bikes. No.
Like do it all aero, you mean? So yeah, it's because faster on a mountain it's different.
Yeah, right? Maybe we need categories for it. Do like a climbing bike, aero bike, and then just like froth. Like what's the froth? Like froth category, who's done it well? Yeah, maybe something like that for dog off fast bike.
Okay.
The other thing as well, like for the show as well, would be because we've been doing it for I think like 3 or 4, maybe 3 years now. Is like you got to stay in the scene, and like for Chris as well, just trying to. It's easy for me and easy for Chris because he still races. And it's easy for me because I'm a coach. So we record the show once a week. The rest of my week is my actual job. So I'm just naturally in it. But as you get older, as things change, it's not something you could just drift away from cycling and come back in and do the show. So staying focused and keeping your sort of ear to the ground in a sense. And also is like if the show grows, maybe there is demand for a gravel NERO show and we need 2 different hosts because there's no fucking way I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe that happens. Maybe there's demand for the NERO style show in different categories, which we wouldn't be capable of doing. So
yeah, that's a nice idea. So why say gravel?
I probably wouldn't ever. Yeah, maybe track something from.
Yeah, I don't know. No, really. So did you try gravel bikes? Gravel racings?
Never done a gravel race. I have it.
You would have, right?
I just have no interest. Go there, get a blown out flat tire, and drive home. Or that's just me.
Gotcha. And the last question. So, what about your personal goals? As a coach, as a person, as a father. I mean, so as the host of the NERO Show. So, what your main priority will be? As a Jesse Coyle.
Well. We just bought a house, so pay off the mortgage. Priority number, which means run a successful business. provides good value and gets good results for riders. So that is most of my income is my actual job. So keep that, and that's been super consistent for years and years now. So that keeps going. That's my number one priority is my coaching business. Keep the show going well, and just stay focused with it. Just keep doing good episodes so a lot of people come back every week. That's it. That's basically it.
That's a really hard thing, I know.
Yeah.
To stay consistent.
Yeah.
Like cycling training.
Yeah, and look, as we get more, the thing with the show is, we have some good, like we're working with Join Cycling, a partner with us sort of longer term. If you listen, quite a few of the ad reads we do, a lot of this, the NERO suit that we sell, we have a new one coming next year. That provides a good level of income. So the more of that we, the more of that we're doing, it does provide more opportunities. We can go to the wind tunnel again. Maybe it's not the wind tunnel, maybe it's some other opportunity. So definitely that was really cool. I got some really good feedback. So doing more of, not necessarily just going to a race, because that's generally what people might think, but really finding interesting things to go to that provide good chat. That's the main thing. That find are interesting things to talk about and that are entertaining. Doing more of that. And then, I'm a dad, husband, got a 2-year-old boy. My like work-life balance with all that is already really good, which is why I don't ride a lot. Like training is good, but I don't envision doing any more. Actually, once I do Peaks Challenge in March, I'll probably pull it back to what I was doing, which is maybe like, if I'm not training, so I train in like spurts. So I'll do sort of like, I might do 8 weeks if I get motivation to do some race, and I might do sort of 8 to 12 hours a week. And then, but my baseline is really low. Like my CTL will just sit at 25 or 30. I'll do like 4 or 5 hours a week.
Whoa.
A lot of it, and most of it's intense. I'll go and do a chop. I'll go and do a session. It's very intense to try and maintain that. But I envision dropping back down to that most of the time. I just don't have a need or motivation or time to be just year round doing like 10 hours a week. So I'll cut that right back down. That's sort of my balance.
So the balance. The key word here is the balance. Right?
Yes.
Stay in balance.
It's actually not fair. I am in some ways lucky that I have such a big training background where I can just do 5 hours a week and then just ramp up for 6 to 8 weeks and get in really good shape.
I mean, you already deserve it, right? So you made a huge amount of work prior to. So, right?
Yeah, because I trained like an elite athlete for so long.
Yeah. And your numbers elite. So
my numbers are still good. It's not lucky because I spent so many years doing it, but it is a privilege to be able to do that, to be able to drop back training to basically a joke and still be able to compete. Mm-hmm. So I guess, it's kind of a privilege to have that ability.
I'm asking about the gravel, so because with your numbers, you can have the podium on a gravel nationals.
You haven't seen my bike handling skills. That is the problem.
Unbound. No additional bike handling skills needable.
I have...
Like Unbound,
I just have no interest in training at a level. I would maybe when I'm 50 and paid my house off and and I'm semi-retired, and I can just, whatever, I can do that. But it just doesn't. I've spent so many years doing competitive things that it doesn't interest me to really do.
Yeah, for sure, on the highest level, highest level. It was so nice to talk with you.
Thanks for chatting.
Yeah, I think I have questions for the next 3 hours, but I think we should. Так, все, друзья, вот и закончилась запись нашего такого лайв-эпизода с Джесси Койлом. Это было очень прикольно. Мы планировали проговорить час, в итоге проговорили 2. Я надеюсь, вам было интересно. Пишите в любом случае любые вопросы ваши в комментарии, потому что мы договорились с Джесси, что мы продолжим общение, и если что, будем записывать онлайн-подкасты для того, чтобы вас радовать какими-то, не знаю, интересными гостями, в том числе его мнением насчет каких-то дополнительных вещей. Потому что столько всего хотелось еще обсудить, но времени уже и у меня у него не было, и надо было уезжать. Это было очень круто. Это мой пробный эпизод, он, конечно же, абсолютно не показательный, и мы будем улучшать качество, но в целом, если вам понравилось, как у меня проходит интервью с западными гостями, напишите об этом обязательно в комментариях. Собственно говоря, все. Пока-пока.